Good day. Our lesson 1.2 for today will be all about ways of acquiring knowledge and solving problems. Our objectives: identify the steps of scientific method, use it in solving problem through an experiment, and relate it in daily life situations. Are you familiar with the CSI, SOCO, or investigador? How do they solve problems? You are correct. They do careful investigation or by applying scientific method. You're doing great, my dear students. And today we will be having a special guest, a great teacher from the Department of Education or DepEd, Ma'am Con.
Hello to all future scientists out there. DepEd TV welcomes you to a day full of learnings and discoveries. I am Ma'am Con. Come and join me. We are Sci Connected. What is scientific method? Well, that's great! Scientific method is a step-by-step procedure used in solving problems and answer questions. What are the 6 basic steps of scientific method? So, first step is to make observations. How are you going to observe? Yes, that's right. You need to use your 5 senses. Second step, come up with a question. Based on your observations, you may now formulate a question. The third step is to develop a hypothesis. Hypothesis is an educated guess. It is a possible answer to the question you have formulated. Fourth step is to conduct an experiment. In this step, you will test your hypothesis through experimentation. The fifth step is to record and analyze the result. Make sure to record what is happening as well as the results. Finally, the sixth step is to draw a conclusion. On this part, you may now conclude that your hypothesis is accepted or rejected. I hope that everything is clear about it because today, we are going to apply the scientific method. Do you have all the materials needed that I told you last episode? That's good! Well then, it's experiment time with Ma'am Con. The goal for today's activity is to use scientific method and solve a problem. Who's up for the experiment? So, let's start! The materials needed are apples, a knife. Remember that you should always be careful in handling knives. You should ask for adults' assistance in using it. Chopping board, container, water, milk, juice, and soda. Another reminder, do not taste all the samples. Now that the materials are all ready, let's start our experiment. First step, let's slice the apple. After slicing, let's observe the apple for 5 minutes. Now, what are your observations? That's right! The apple turned brown after 5 minutes. Second step, based on your observation, you may come up with a question. What would be the possible problem based on the observation? Very good! The problem will be, what can you put to an apple slice to keep it from turning brown? Third step, make a hypothesis or prediction. What would be the preliminary answer to our question? So, we will try to use water, milk, juice, and soda. And that will be our hypothesis. For the fourth step, we will test the hypothesis through experimentation. Let's put a sliced apple in each sample of water, milk, soda, and juice. Watch what happens to each. Now, let's do the fifth step. Record and analyze the results. Do they all turn brown? Which one turns brown first? Which turns brown last? Finally, the sixth step is to draw a conclusion. Let's answer this question. If you put a blank on an apple, it will not turn brown that fast. It is my pleasure to know that you enjoyed the experiment and understand the scientific method as well. Let's try to sum up the results of the experiment. Are you ready? Let's do it! What is your observation after slicing the apple? What happens to the apple? Exactly! The apple turned brown. Now, what is the problem in the activity? Great! What can you put to an apple slice to keep it from turning brown? What is our hypothesis? Very good! We will try to put an apple slice to each sample, water, milk, juice, and soda. To test the hypothesis, we put an apple slice to each sample. While waiting, we recorded the data and analyzed the results. For the conclusion, which type of liquid will prevent the apple from turning brown? Is it juice, milk, soda, or water? You got it right! The answer is letter D, water. Scientific method is a series of steps designed to help you solve problems and answer questions. Hope that the activity helped you better understand the scientific method. Now that you understand the scientific method and its steps, there are variables that you need to know when having an experiment or a study. And these are the independent and dependent variable. These are the factors that we control in order for us to get most accurate result of our experiment. Independent variable is the variable that is being manipulated or controlled, while dependent variable is the effect that arises from the changes in the independent variable. Let me give you a short science fact. Did you know that the skin is the largest organ of our body? Yes, it covers our whole body and makes up about 16% of our overall mass and approximately 2 millimeters thick. So, we should always take care of our skin as it also protects us against germs, pollution, and radiation from the sun. Well, that's the short science fact for today with Ma'am Con. Let us further understand the independent and dependent variable. I will give you a sample hypothesis, and all you have to do is to identify the independent and dependent variables of those hypotheses. Do tomatoes grow fastest under fluorescent, incandescent, or natural light? What is the independent variable? Correct! The independent variable are the type of light the tomato plant is grown. What about the dependent variable? The dependent variable is the rate of growth of the tomato plant. Another hypothesis. Do people who sleep more will gain weight than the people who sleep less? What is the independent variable? That's right! The independent variable is whether the people sleep more or less. What about the dependent variable? Excellent! The dependent variable is the number of sleeping hours and gain in weight. Now that scientific method and the variables that you should consider in an experiment is clear, let us have an assessment. Read each question carefully. Write only the letter of your answer. Use a separate sheet of paper. Number 1. What scale is used when you listen to the sounds that are produced by whales? A. Interpreting data. B. Drawing conclusions. C. Making a hypothesis. D. Making observations. The scale that you used when you listen to the sound produced by waves, you are making observations, which is letter D. Number 2. A scientist conducted an experiment to determine how the amount of salt in a body of water affects the number of plants that can live in the water. Which is the independent variable? A. Water. B. Temperature of the water. C. Amount of salt in the water. D. Number of plants in the water. The independent variable in the experiment stated is the amount of salt in water. That is letter C. Number 3. What is the last step in the scientific method? A. Writing report. B. Collecting data. C. Analyzing data. D. Drawing conclusion. The last step in scientific method is drawing conclusion. You got it right! That is letter D. Why is scientific method an important process in doing experiments? A. It takes more work, but it is worth it. B. It helps the experiment to take longer and be better. C. It ensures that results can be trusted and repeated. D. It ensures that people doing the experiment are scientific. Scientific method is an important process in doing experiments because it ensures that results can be trusted and repeated. The answer is letter C. Number 5. What do you call the information gathered during experiments? A. Data. B. Theory. C. Conclusion. D. Hypothesis. The information gathered during experiment is data. You are correct if your answer is letter A, data. Remember, scientific method are the steps a scientist will follow when conducting an experiment or when working on a scientific problem. However, the steps may be used by you in finding answers and solutions to your queries and problems. But you have to consider factors, and those are the independent and dependent variables.